why I am proud to present the Battle of the Apes. Let's go. As we hop in to 8-player free-for-all. No teaming. Although if you do team, you know, you're not going to know if you're teaming with Beastie or you're teaming with a Recon. Well, actually, you would. But what I want you guys to realize is, while we have a little bit of God vision here, a little bit of God info, knowing that Kaiser Johan, Recon, the Mr. Munch, and WNTD SAS are in here, and we know who they are. At the time, none of them knew who each other was. I'm a little bit bummed, actually, because when I originally loaded this game, all of them, bar one, were showing as Baboon. It seems that my game then updated and refreshed those profiles, and unfortunately, we now have this. Would love to actually just get some observer-level UI mods that don't need to be downloaded and played for the active game, so that I could use them on my end. What I mean is, for example, I would love to have an option to just show player names as always one thing, like Baboon. Even if the players didn't have that mod on, I should be able to do that. It's kind of weird that you can't, considering that that should be something that, you know, I don't know if they use the same term, but like, for example, in Europe Universalis 4 at the moment, I'm big on the Iron Man runs, which are ones where you can't reset, you have to commit through. So any mods I use, which are like graphical overlay ones, have to not alter something called the checksum. The checksum is essentially the version of the game. So what you're doing is you're just modifying the UI. Hopefully we get to a stage where that's a possibility. I know there's things like the improved Observer UI, which was created shortly before we, of course, got into Capture Age's 1v1 update. But the problem with that one back then is, you know, unlike Capture Age, you had to download a mod. You had to play the lobby on that mod, or anyone viewing it couldn't use the UI mod. But enough of that. Let's focus on what's happening here, because it looks like we have got two apes aping around in the corner. We have got a Chinese player in the pink as Baboon, and then just to the north on the other side of the tree line, unlikely they even know that each other are there, it's going to be the red Baboon as the HRE. Now remember, this is Mega Random Nomad, which means that people spawn with their villages across the map, dispersed, and you can see that if you look at the bottom corner here on the mini-map, you can see how these people have had to trek across the map to get to start locations. You're also seeing some players just give up and set something up away from home. This is popular to do when your other villager is the opposite side of the map. There's no point idling them. In fact, even dropping something like a dock here seems kind of wacky, paying 150 wood. But the time it would take him to walk across the map versus dropping this and fishing makes this a decent opportunity for the orange Baboon. Especially considering that you're going to use this later, right? You know, you could walk down south. You don't have a guarantee that there's going to be fish around here. Of course, we can see, but we do have God vision, unlike the players. Well, looks like we've got quite the cluster duck up here as well. So purple Baboon is going to be just north of this extension. And then just south of them, we've got two players that changed their identity. But you know what? I will call them Yellow Ape and Green Ape. Everyone is an ape in this game. I don't care if we see their real name. I'm committing to this. It's going to be English, Rus, and Mongols. Interesting triangle here. Usually if you're the English player, you want to be probably in the corner. Just gives you an easier way of playing defensive and teching up. This kind of starting point does have a weakness to it for the yellow Baboon. And that's that you don't actually have much food to work with. You've got the berries outside of range of protection. You haven't got many sheep right now. I don't think you've got many coming. You could play for fishing, but that's going to be contested. So we'll see if they actually get a comfortable start or if they get pushed out early. Well, it looks like over in the left corner. Cyan? Is it Cyan or Cyan? I always get them confused. I've said Cyan for many years. Let's see if I was right.
Cyan.
I was right. Oh, wait. There's an American one.
Cyan.
No, I'm just right. Okay. I don't know why someone once told me it was Cyan. But of course, they couldn't see. They were clearly reading the wrong word. No, but as a Cyan Baboon, they are all no lonesome in the corner. Delhi playing far from the left. Now, the downside of this is you're playing Delhi away from sacred sites entirely, so it might be difficult to cap them. But you can't argue against having an entire corner to yourself, and that's no exaggeration there. They have a quarter of the map to themselves. No one is infringing upon that. And as we move south, we can, of course, see the blue Baboon playing closer to the base of orange Baboon here. I wonder if they're going to come into contest early on. Gotta say, actually, is that double roost player in this game? I think it is. So, a decent amount of hunting to be gained. I'm expecting both of them to crack tier 3 bounty. Because the crazy part, right, is like, you can't play a mega round free-for-all as if all your opponents are roosts, right? Which means the other players that aren't roosts aren't necessarily stopping off and sniping all the deer because they desperately want to get more sheep. As you never know what's going to be next to you and if you're going to be forced to be under your town center. Well, look at this. Interesting play coming out from the purple baboon. They want to strip away the dot control. This is becoming hotly contested waters, actually. We've got 3 apes in this area. An English, a Rus, and a Mongol. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere. Interesting enough, neither of them seem to be contesting the English player, even though they know about it. This is more because there's a paranoia right now for purple baboon. They don't want to be pushed off the water. They don't want to have to worry about emplacements, because if you drop an emplacement on this dock here, you block out purple baboon. Orange baboon, meanwhile, doesn't actually have to give a crap because they can literally just move their boats out and they never have to come home. So that's why you're seeing this commitment of villagers so early on. Meanwhile, on the eastern front. Well, it looks like they know about each other. It turns out the town centers are actually shooting at each other constantly here. Funny little detail is that I'm pretty sure long term, if I'm not mistaken, the attack speed, yeah, exactly. The attack speed is worse for the Chinese TC. So let's say we just left this in a vacuum and we let this play out. The Chinese TC, despite how broken it seems a lot of the time due to the hand cannons, would lose this battle. Wolves now going up as well. So understandably, the pink baboon is trying to play into the corner, right? China doesn't usually want to come out and play. And yes, chat, you are correct. There are multiple baboons detected. I'm really bummed out we didn't catch this when it was all 8 as baboons. We got to this one a little bit late. It's a heartbreaker, really. I believe that is, yeah, so survival techniques coming out. No one really ever plays pro scouts, which is a little bit surprising on Mega Random with 8 players and so many deers. But then if you think about it a little bit longer, it makes sense, right? If you play pro scouts, are you going to benefit from the upswing over just going farms? Like, the case in point is that most games of Mega Random Free-For-All, you don't feel like getting into farms is a difficult thing to do because the game doesn't end fast. Like, you're either done so quickly, you're either chased into the base of within 15 minutes that going for pro scouts wouldn't have saved you, or you're getting through to that mid-late game where setting up a million farms really isn't difficult. And of course, the cool thing is to kind of buff you towards that point. Usually you can get a decent spawn with either fish or deer nearby, right? Because you are choosing your TC location. Kind of funny how everyone played out in the corners, by the way. No one tried for that gamble in the center. Spoiler alert, it doesn't really ever work out unless people are just not paying attention. The problem is you just end up in the way. Even if you're not the primary target, you are essentially just putting yourself in a position where people are going to want to kill you. And you become a more desirable target to take anyway, not just because it's a shorter route to your base versus going after someone on the opposite side of the map. It's also the fact that you've decided to park a base in the central resource deposits, which means you're going to get the most out of the map long term. So if you think about it that way, right, like usually this kind of carving of territory, if we both know the game is going to go hyper late, I'm going to get rid of the player who right now has the vast majority of resources under their control. Because that ensures that when we get to that late game and I run out of resources, I don't simply lose because you have more. I think we're going to speed this up a little. I know some people have been complaining about the 2x speed. To be honest with you guys, like, I think in 1v1s, first 5-10 minutes, if there's a stagnant start and they're not moving out of the base, is okay. In Mega Random free-for-alls, I think it is okay to go 10 to 15. Especially if there's not much aggro in the early game, right? Like, the most aggro we've seen so far has been the town centers attacking each other. So there's really not much to particularly highlight. I think in a lot of time in Mega Round free-for-alls, unless you can see someone going for the all-in kill, you're going to get the more kind of standardized builds. Multiple TCs, age up, come about this at a later point. In fact, I think that's what we're getting out of Orange Baboon down here. Did go for the golden gate in the corner, so they're being a little bit of a crafty bugger. I'm already tempted to say it's core. I don't know. If he goes for a landmark in a different corner, this is 100% core. That's the other fun part about everyone being the same name, right? Like, if you got told the names as you went into the lobby, but you don't know who it is, good luck figuring it out. Definitely a fun experience. It's like our yellow baboon. It's just hard on the wood. Getting into the longbows, though, so looking for some early pressure, maybe an opportunity to probe. You need to be careful, though, because when you're in this kind of love triangle, if you draw too much attention to yourself, you will get ganged. I think that's what's probably happening over here on the water side. Yeah, a lot of control coming out from yellow. Triple docks laid along the lines, so looks like they're trying to push their opponents out. And the funny part is actually purple baboon is attacking orange. So this is potentially just being given over for free to the English now. He's got triple docks, right? So you can just mass more ships than the Mongol player should be capable of. Let's see if he actually does make that play. Right now, it's just more fishing boats. And actually, not the worst idea coming out from Yellow Baboon here. Instead of directly attacking, why not just build emplacements and continue to eco up? It saves you more resources, lets you get through to that later point, ensures you're not over-investing into water and then leaving your base overly vulnerable. I say overly vulnerable because when you get such an open spawn around you, you're always going to feel a little bit vulnerable in this game. You might actually have a threat from the east if it can clean up quick enough. And we noticed in this tech up that came out. So, Red Baboon able to move fast up into Castle Age, as you'd expect out the HRE. And actually funneling quite a few relics back to base. I believe that is already looking to be free secure in the next minute. So, not bad. You just that's at least what you want. Could give him an edge over the Chinese player to the south side. And we already see the Knights now riding in to the eco lines. So, heavy hit into the Chinese. And remember, this is the secondary TC, so no hand cannon slits. That's a big deal, because now instead of shooting at these Knights and getting about 80% of your damage going through, you're being whittled away at by these tiny little tickle arrows, right? They barely do anything. It's actually quite pathetic. You can see it's 8 damage, so over half of it is just being reduced. Well, I say over half. It will be if a certain someone gets a blacksmiths and upgrades, which is a little bit surprising for me, actually, that Red Baboon didn't go for the Undermesh, considering it's only 175 resources. Whenever you want to play Heavy Knights, Undermesh is incredibly valuable, because your plan is very clearly to dive into enemy bases. You want to mitigate as much of that arrow fire as possible. Okay. Blue, or Cyan. See, now I can't convince myself I was saying it right. Cyan Blue is making quite an interesting layering here. Although it's being negotiated alongside by Blue. Wow. Really aggressive borders out of Blue, but this is more paranoia. I think they just want to keep them out of territory so that then Blue Baboon can turn this into a one-on-one with Orange Baboon. Orange Baboon, that is going nuts on the town center account. Up to 4 as the Roost condensed together like this. They're going to blitz for their initial holdings incredibly fast. Meanwhile, north side, we are seeing Green Baboon, the other Roost player, heading up to Castle Age. Is there a similar play coming out from yellow, though? I don't think so. It looks like they're kind of chilling here for the moment. In fact, if we check their resources, they've got what they need. So King's Power should be the logical call here. Just a matter where you want to go. And it looks like that was enough to shut him down. Just so we're about to check in again. Pink Baboon waves the white flag. Triple TC Song Dynasty was a little bit too greedy. Who'd have thought it? It's kind of funny, right? Like, you feel like you're at a point where, in some ways, you can just keep producing villages faster than they die. The issue, however, and why Pink GG's out here, there's not enough farms. You can't afford to keep spamming out villages, and you're also just ignoring the issue. You're not resolving it, right? Sure, you can build more villages, more than you're going to lose, but eventually you just reach a point where this army gets so big that it starts taking out buildings. So they won't waste any time. They will wave the white flag. Pink will be the first one out. That gives Red a very solid position here, right? They got a decent amount of relics. There's still more up for grabs, I believe, in the center, which they are hunting for. And they've got free reign to go for them. Not really anyone who's going to intercept them in the immediate area. Maybe someone can wall 1 or 2 of them off. Looks like Blue Baboon has gone for the trade. It's 82 gold per, not too bad. And did they go for the Chamber of Commerce? I hope not. Thank God. Chamber of Commerce, folks, is a bait. Do not do it as the French. It doesn't really offer anything worthwhile. I think, like, the issue is, even if you talk about, like, resource gains and whatever, I can't ever look at Chamber of Commerce and say it's better than increasing the production speed of all your stables for the rest of the game by 20%. That in itself, I think that's what makes it such an easy choice for French and always will, is like this has early ramifications and scales infinitesimally in the game, right? When you talk about the fact you can get more resources with Chamber of Commerce, whoop-de-doo, right? With the School of Cavalry, if I already have enough resources, my limitation in late game is pop cap. So if I'm able to reproduce my losses 20% faster, that looks a lot more sexy than let's get a bit more gold. Looks like things have been snooped on. So, Red Baboon, fully aware of the trade and looking to stop it. Not much the Blue Baboon can do to stop this right now. You know, they're now moving across into their knights, but they are heavily delayed at this point. They barely had any military out and about. In fact, the walls that have gone up... Wait, I know what the typing was. I think Cyan Baboon and Blue Baboon negotiated here. So Cyan Baboon said, give me all this territory and I won't wall you off from trade. At least seems that way. However, Red Baboon did not agree to any sort of concord. No, instead, or accord rather, instead they will be grinding down each of these traders. So unfortunate now for Blue Baboon. Needs to get a defense force out and has to be somewhat paranoid about Orange Baboon to the right side, who is looking to get aggro. Move out of the Spearman. In fact, if anything, this is on Blue Baboon. Blue Baboon has now drawn attention from north and east. Could be problematic. Should probably check in on the north side, though, because we have had these three players locked in with each other for quite a while. Notice Purple Baboon never went for trade. There was no viable route for them whatsoever. They just had to chill and vibe. Green is looking to get into raid here. Plenty of knights. Problem is English plays super condensed, right? So you have to wait for them to branch out, which is starting to occur here. That wood line is moving very far away from the base of the English. They don't really have much of a defense force to speak of right now. I mean, it's just going to be longbows. Spears aren't being added in, so very basic comp. Very wood expensive as well for someone who doesn't necessarily have great access to wood. Not for free anyway, which is why you're now seeing Baboon, Yellow Baboon, carve up territory here, right? Get more outposts up to push north. It's interesting considering, actually, I'd say a Knight comp would have worked really well here, considering you have triple gold vein, 2 of which are 8k just south of your base. In fact, you had 2 right next to your primary TC. But if we look at it from Yellow Baboon's perspective, they probably feel like they just need to defend their food source on the water. So they just want to have Spearmen. And of course, that's going to be a cheaper solution than going into Premium Knights. Premium Knights that could, sure, chase this green player around, but they wouldn't necessarily ever catch them. Raid's coming in. So this is what I was worried about, right? Is the fact that you can be boxed in like this. You can get these outposts up, but it won't necessarily stop Knights from diving in and out of your base. We'll see what the overall reaction is going to be. I think it's just going to be mass of spears and park them everywhere. Eventually, Yellow's going to want a way of walling up. They just don't have good position to do so until they kill the 2 players behind them. Quite a tall ask, actually. Meanwhile, these Knights in the center have been relentless. They've been doing this non-stop. In fact, is there a treaty here? Okay, no, he just didn't see him. Now that he does, though, that's going to be pushing you off the gold. Now, this is worrisome because we said that the Cyan Baboon had got a corner themselves, but something I want you to take note of is the lack of gold access, right? You've got this gold stack back here. I believe did they already burn through one? Possibly. And that's it. They have to go all the way up here. All the way over here. Or into the center to access that gold. And it seems they chose to go into the center to risk their villages, just because they know villages, of course, can be replaced long-term, but these gold sources are going to disappear over time. And it looks like they have actually agreed to work together, considering that they saw them, but these knights completely ignored them. So it makes a little bit of sense from a geographical perspective, right? You've got Cyan on the opposite side of the map to Red. They should logically be the last players to clash. So a kind of fragile alliance to shut down any eco-scaling between them can make sense here. Kind of like the logic of don't make extra enemies, right? Because the other thing is, while you know you'll eventually have to kill him, and some people right now are probably thinking, yeah, but I mean, you're just making him the second strongest player or the first strongest player. The logic from both players' perspective is they could attack each other as well, but that might just lead to counter raids on the other side, right? It might lead to a situation where, oh, you attack Cyan's villages, so Cyan sends in knights to attack Red, which you don't want to have happen when you're being assaulted by potentially green and orange. Or if you look from the other perspective, you know, purple and blue. Green has actually managed to wiggle out of this awkward position. I'm kind of impressed. This is well done by the Green Baboon. Like, they didn't really have many ways they could extend so they only could go this way. But the fact they didn't actually have to clash at all to gain this territory has worked well for them. And the important detail is you've got lots of wood to work with, which of course is the most valuable of things to have for the roost, because even if you don't need it for your units, you know you're going to need it for a farm transition like we talked about before. And also, it's the only resource that you as a roost player are able to get more of via Civ perks. And of course, going to be the Wooden Fortress Influence gives you the extra 20% wood on drop-off. Definitely a valuable tool, especially if you think there's not enough wood long-term, right? Like, you have to keep in mind that there aren't many civs that can fabricate wood out of nothing. The two that can do it are the Rus and the Chinese. And what I mean by that is, any wood source you have here, you're adding 20% on because they are still gathering what they would normally. They're gathering the full amount of wood from this tree, but then you'll notice when they drop off, right, instead of them dropping off 15, sorry, I should have been on the player there, they're going to actually payday higher than that. Although he might need more payday to defend here. It looks like a raid coming in. It's going to be the yellow baboon getting aggro here. Men-at-Arms and Spearmen. I mean, it's actually an effective plan here. He's essentially discounted the power of the Knights because you have to defend your base, so you have to arrive in this fight. But for now, Green Baboon doing a good job of defending. The problem is replacing what's going to be lost here, right? These Knights, these counts are going down. And once they're gone, you're going to end up in a Men-at-Arms or Men-at-Arms clash up against the English that do, of course, have that armor clad. Not to mention the attack speed buffer whenever they have to fall back. For now, it looks like enough troops are there. My concern is you're now clashing with each other like this. What's Purple up to? Purple has been remarkably quiet. But I don't think that's going to be the case for much longer. I mean, Purple Baboon has to think about expanding outward here. Right, the gold's not going to last long. Your eco's scaling quite high. They did only play 1 TC, though. So they might be reluctant to jump the gun on expanding for more resources. Well, speaking of expansions, the French are never happy unless they are blobbing. The big blue blob is on the way in. And Orange left in a 1v1 right now. Now, this is surprising considering the raids that came in on the trade that Blue was trying to set up. Yet they're still strong enough to push like this. Makes you question what the hell's been happening with Orange, because Orange hasn't really been raided, right? Them and Red have just had a live and let live situation. Seems like Orange was just being overall greedy. You know, spears to a decent degree. Maybe some crossbows are in there, but wasn't prepped for this push through. Now let's push in. Double trap, Mango, needs to get the siege. Siege workshops are being prepped for that. Should have enough time to react to this. Blue hasn't really amassed an unkillable army at this stage. They are starting to knock into your base. One of the town centers. I say one of the town centers, the last extension town center to go down. Because those ruins, folks, remember, this was a triple TC setup. So that's heavily going to slow down the ability for Orange to rebuild any losses here. Luckily for them, they're already up 130 ecos, so doesn't have to worry too much about that. I say that, as long as you don't lose 50 villages. If you somehow lose 50 villages in the next 2 minutes, then we've got a problem. But that's quite the stretch. It's not easily done. All right, I'm not going to have to say, this is actually a decent push for Orange. The Knights need to wrap around with the crossbows, or this is a type of line that can, weirdly enough, kind of hold. There's only a few men-at-arms. Remember, these are all archers, so he needs to trade out the crossbows, if anything. Spear's now arriving to distract the Knights. And although you've got the siege behind this, it does feel like you have to back away. Springles will snipe out the Trebs. It's a good play. And that's what I mean by the numbers going to be deceitful, right? It looks like Orange is going to fall, but just a few men-at-arms here. Lasting so long with a double armor upgrade against the archers. Castle now being built up. More spears coming out just to push back against this. Army fully reset. Blue, where the hell are the resources right now? They seem a little bit lackluster, right? Like, he has 1,000 in the bank of each. If I'm not mistaken, Blue Baboon was trying to tech up. Dangerous to do in this situation. Like, you kind of have to commit to what you're doing. They didn't do that. Instead, they got very gluttonous by the looks of it. As a result, now Orange getting an opportunity to just buffer him back. Really good exchange in terms of traded eco, right? The amount of military that he's killed versus what he's lost has been valuable as all hell for Orange. Now with this castle up, it'll be very difficult for Blue to renew the assault. Meanwhile, the assault has been successful into Yellow's base. Green was able to surge forward. With the eco counters it was, with the push power behind them, it looks like Yellow was never able to put together a viable defense. And as a result, they will call GG. They'll be the second player to go out here. Green now having a lofty amount of territory claimed for them. They do still have to worry about purple to the north, though. And purple, as we can see, is planning aggression. Second TC to insulate their eco. But a lot of stables coming out, a big crossbow army already, and a move up into Imperial Age for the Mongols. South side, how are we looking? Looks like there is a tech upcoming, so Blue did decide to be greedy in the end. Went for the red pass. A little bit more aggro placement here, right? Covers the mid-crossing. Whole idea is it extends your influence out towards your trade. That, of course, is now blocked out. And he puts it in a location where not only is it going to guard an area, but he leaves room to build around it, for the most. Because remember, this is essentially a castle like any other castle. An OP castle, of course, but what I'm referring to is the fact that it gets this influence that reduces the cost of archery range and stable units within its vicinity. Cost efficient, especially something that is important for the French in these type of games. If you want to go mass knights, that discount will most definitely add up, as gold is a very sparse resource in these games. So often we see that becomes kind of the pivotal factor. You know, you can talk about 1v1s where it's decided by wood, but quite often in the free-for-alls, even the team games in Mega Random Nomad, when you're up to 4 on each side, I'd say gold tends to dictate more. He's now starting to reach an imp. So that's 3 making it up. Purple, red, and blue baboon. Actually made that cyan blue as well. Cyan who's been incredibly patient so far. I mean, I say patient, but I think the more appropriate word is AFK. Feels like they just clicked their villagers to go through certain resources and then went away to make a coffee. This has to be beastie, right? I'm leaning beastie on this. Folks, I mean, ignore what I've said, right? We've seen the kind of way these players are playing, from the Mongol player to the HRE player, who are definite ones we cannot identify other than baboons, to the orange player. If you had to say which one was beastie, would you say one's if you think red is beastie, two's if you think purple is beastie, 3 if you think orange is beastie? I'm gonna honestly say that I think this is beastie. He's not the only one that will do these kind of corner keep drops into landmark drops or sets up for a wonder, right? But he's the one that will most frequently layer it this kind of way that I've seen anyway. It definitely feels like a him type play. Interesting. Someone thinks 3. Is that just because you want to see beastie lose, or is that because you actually think it's him? I say that. Orange is pushing in quite well, but can they get deep enough is the question. I will say this. These choke points that have been created by his own walls actually works quite well for him. You just want to be devil's advocate? Hey, mate, maybe you're right. Orange is looking pretty strong right now. That was a respectable hold. You know, some players would not commit to the defense the way they did to push the French player out when they're clearly so outnumbered, but they understood that premium quality beats quantity. Well, quantity of players are now up in Imperial Age. Those that are not are eliminated. Everyone now in the ultra late game. Looks like the Mongols have started to move out as well, so purple baboon getting out on the map. Red baboon very clearly planning for something. And with the amount of gold, they've got 5,000 a minute. Good God. They're like, okay, I need to get rid of all these resources before anyone else can have it. Needs to be gone. Look at us. Look at the analysis coming out. Roland says orange was beastly tier springboard use, but not enough parallel pushes, in my opinion. Ooh, I like that. And yes, I agree. The Ford mining in conjunction with the Maginot line defense force in the corner is peak beastie, especially in something like Mega Random. Makes a lot of sense that this has to be him. So much gold just being harvested away. It's not just to benefit him long-term to be able to hold. It's also that he understands that a lot of the civs he's up against want gold. to be effective in return, right? The Roost players are going to want Strelts in the late game. That requires gold. You know, if you think about the Mongols, crossbows or lancers or hand cannoneers themselves, when you think about the French, it's going to be mass knights. A lot of these players will require gold to be effective in these late game clashes. I'm glad that everyone is. I didn't know this about Beastie. I don't know what like kind of content he offers on his Patreon or OnlyFans here, but apparently Beastie's sucking, his sucking power is unparalleled. I'm not gonna look into that too much. I think we have a good friendship as it is. We don't need to muddy the waters. Well, I think we can agree he's anything but a person who sucks. Right, this guy is always a threat. In fact, last time we watched a Mega Random, they saw him, they target him straight away. They remove Beastie every time. I love this detail. This is something that got discovered, I'd say about like 3 or 4 weeks maybe into Mega Random free-for-all becoming really popular, is just layering your base with infrastructure. I think the best example I ever saw of this was in the 2v2v2v2, I believe it was Core and Puppy Paw, if I'm not mistaken. And they basically protected their Wonder by dropping 1,000,000 racks as an archery ranger. The logic here is you create choke points that make it more difficult for your opponents to rush through and reach the Wonder, reach what they need to kill. On top of that, you create this awesome situation where you're clustering them together for these cannons to be more effective, which you're now seeing being upgraded here. It's actually a really solid play, and you're noticing he's layering just a few of these outposts around these areas, right? You're not oversaturating it. This way it spreads out your damage and just essentially bursts wave after wave, as opposed to relying on one hard line at the back of your base. Because when you do that, you're essentially allowing them to burn all this infrastructure for free if they choose. So it's going to be a little bit of calming on the south side, actually. Orange and blue. They took chunks out of each other, but they refused to kill, interestingly enough. Meanwhile, north side. What is going on here? Surely at some point, Cyan has to realize that red is a threat. They're letting them sit here and harvest quite a lot of gold. Very odd. There must be a lot of talking, a lot of convincing going on here. It looks like blue and cyan are also not. Okay, cyan, like, this guy is whamming it up right now. This is. Oh my god, and they're going for the Wonder. No wonder they want everyone to be their friend. This is so dangerous, though. You don't have great resource for it. I hope the plan for Cyan is to wait until red builds a Wonder and everyone attacks red and then come over the top. But yeah, honestly, this guy is full whamification right now. Everyone's my friend. Oh, red, you're my friend. Oh, blue, you're my friend. I'll help you trade. Anything and everything that anyone wants, he's giving it. It's such a passive way to play the game. You know, in some ways, it makes sense if you go for the secondary Wonder. But you can't be the first up. Not with this type of resource bank. I think red can do it. You can see the resources being gained here, right? Like, you have enough in reserve that, in theory, it's possible. They're not likely to do it until at least one more player is being killed, if they can help it. Simply because you're talking about a game where you'd be building a Wonder and only 2 have been eliminated so far. Usually the optimal time to go for a Wonder play, I'd say it's about 3 players remaining, as in 3 enemies. It's somewhat manageable, if one of them has been heavily dented as well. 3 fully powered players, unless you've walled off, you know, a quarter of the map entirely, should be difficult to get through. And, huh. Well, red has actually layered close to a quarter of the map. Not fully layer upon layer behind it, but this is pretty well insulated. You can tell by the fact that when I pan across it, my game seems like it wants to crash. What's going on with these villages? Just pushing them around with new structures. I love it. Someone saying orange is beastie? We don't know that. We can't confirm. I just see baboons everywhere. It's baboon doing everything he can to hold against blue. Decent static point defenses. Problem is not much of a front line. If these Knights ride in, I think they could actually clean up, but seems like he's a little bit paranoid for good reason. There's Streltsy in the mixer, and I love the play coming out from blue. Elite archers to clean up Streltsy. It's actually a respectable strategy here. Remember, archers have 5 tower range. These Streltsy only have 4.5. Make that 4, rather. So they have to full on the gap close. It's not easy to do, especially when you want to rely on stat deployment that you won't have. Also, keep in mind, there's no possibility for Orange to build walls here, right? Oh, wait, there is. Ignore me then, I'm an idiot. I was just kind of surprised that they never built stone walls on the front line or tried. Would have been really powerful with the Streltsy here. Red is still not going for it, though. Just a big stalemate. I'm going to get us to 2 times speed a little. Because I feel like everyone is just kind of tiptoeing around each other. No one wants to commit to anything fully. We're reaching a point soon where that's not going to be allowable anymore, right? When the resources start to dry up, every little matters. It's going to turn into a post-apocalyptic wasteland at this rate. Looks like there is a march around actually coming out. Purple may need to come out soon. They've started to trade, so they're prepping for that late game. But there's the commitment. It's coming through. It's been done. Red Baboon will go for the wonder. It's time to track this, baby. It's like 15 minutes until a victory for Red. Red that has absorbed a lot of the map. Will it be enough to last them, though? Because that cost them a hell of a lot of gold. Maybe I'll 2 times speed until we crash. Looks like players are going to have to organize themselves, get in position here. Now, keep in mind that Scion should be prepping for a wonder themselves. They've got the space for it. They've got plenty of outposts, an insane amount, in fact. Love the way they're stonewalling. They're leaving openings, and part of this, I think, is because they couldn't due to the TC. But I like the idea of just doing this on purpose. It creates a funnel point so that when someone clicks to attack your wonder, there is a route for them. That route, however, is going to be full of painful death. Death by a million cannons, in fact. Well, raid's starting to come in. Looks like the Delhi and Mongols have arrived. But similarly, as history dictates, the Mongol player is going to be stopped by walls. Even wood walls, because they went full range comp right now. Yeah, they're getting the bad news. They realize just how insulated Red is here. No easy break-in point. They're going to have to figure this one out, though. Looks like it's going to be Trebs. One of the remarkable things the Mongols can do, of course, is build siege in the field. They will get their access point. Only 2 players showing up so far, but it looks like a third is going to join in. As our blue monkey is on the way. And green is sieging from the north side, so they are coordinating here. Everyone is getting involved. Orange on the way as well. Folks, we are about to witness a 5 versus 1. That's the reactionary force. Nice pinch. Nice pincer coming out here. Actually stealing the opportunity to block off one of the players from re-emerging. It looks like Scion was trying to wrap around, look for a way through. Instead, all they found is a death corner. That was a great reaction from Red. Played him like a fiddle. Spears are going to clean up the cavalry battalion. Now, keep in mind that Scion did not build a proxy base, so they have to rush across the field to get into position again. This is going to be a problem. Orange, in the meantime, is at least trying to go through the front way. And Red, love this detail. Look at this play from Red. Siege is for free. We'll march in. Maybe could have killed a few of the mangoes quicker than going straight for the trebuchets, but the trebuchets are the true threat here. He's worried about losing the cannons, losing the racks, so instead, take as much of that out of the equation as he can. A good move considering Orange has to build them back from base and wheel them out again. Red now getting the opportunity to push out even further. Green, in the meantime, pushing in from the north side. Only 1 bombard, though. Double castle in the area is going to make this a slow push and one that's going to be costly. Green needs to retreat and get more siege. Purple, in the meantime, has only just broken through the wall. This is incredibly slow, actually, to start off. The first 5 minutes, and it feels like they haven't done much with it. They've killed, like, what, 4 or 5 racks? 1 or 2 of the small walls? Looks like Sam was at least able to keep a few of the Knights alive, but Can should clean them up. Orange is going to slow down and look to reset, so breathing room required, desired, and acquired for Red. Red that is now reacting the north side. Man, Lang's are actually so good when you play this type of game. HRE usually kind of pitter off in the late game, but I love them here. He isn't really using many Lanks next, but I think we're going to see more if he feels he can afford it. In small quantities, he can. And the reason it's a good play is because everyone's going to have to be forced, especially if we get down towards like 7, 6, 5 minutes, to rush past the racks. If they do that, the Lanks can just hold in small choke points and wipe their opponents out. So looking forward to seeing if that's going to be part of the comp. For now, it's going to be hand cannoneers. That's where the gold is going. Quite a pricey investment either way. At least with the hand cannoneers, you can hide behind your buildings, so they can't be accessed easily, whereas Lanks would be your front line. Clash on the south side. Looks like an opening does come through, so Delhi player managed to breach on the Woodwall south side, but they need to address red in the center. Cannon's proving a little bit of a frustration here. Culverin's in the mix to deal with the siege. And an overwhelming firepower coming in here. What a wrap. Straight away, blue's going to be pushed back. Orange is just being kept at bay. I actually love the way that red is balancing this. Just enough troops to keep orange out of the equation, and then they wail away on the north side players. Green has been fully pushed back and re-walled up. Purple isn't really contributing anything here. Like, I honestly think purple is kind of costing them dearly here. Magadai maybe could be the answer, but I'm not fully convinced yet. I think hand cannoneers can eviscerate you, at least if there's 10 of them. The crossbows haven't really participated so far. A bit awkward. Orange now giving way as well. There is no way. There is absolutely no way that this player is going to beat 5 players at once. Honestly, you don't see it often, folks. Like, it's incredibly difficult to beat 3 players. 5? It's like climbing up a mountain, and the only way you can climb, you haven't got any climbing gear, you just super glued your hand. You literally got super glue on your hands. Yes, that is difficult. Because you probably get like two climbing points up, and then you're stuck. And that's how it feels here, right? Like they've got the initial climb. They put their hands on the mountainside. They've gone up. They've thrusted up. And they're like, I can't move now. We got the outer stone walls, boys. We can't move now. You have to move fast, though. Look at the timer. 7.5 minutes to go. Panic will begin to set in soon. Green. Oh, no. That's a heavy cost. Mango shots in are good. But now, I mean, red should just commit past this. Should take out the siege. The siege is the premium that you can't afford to lose if you're green. Especially when you look at that gold. Struggling to keep up, but seems like red isn't going to fully push out here. Instead, they're going to be a little bit more defensive. Understandably so, right? Chasing after this would leave an opening. Green could have communicated that and said, yeah, I've got 40 or 50 units here. Go elsewhere. So instead, they're going to hold firm and hold fast. You're not wrong. They are taking turns. It's not just that they're taking turns. The actual bigger issue is they keep overextending their siege. So even if they somehow win a battle, they're not getting rid of the reproduction of the HRE here. That's the real problem I see. It's not even just the mistimed attacks. It's that in conjunction with the amount of siege each player throws away each time this fails. Like, look what just happened here. That's all the trebs. Orange has at least got new trebs in, though. Rouge player from the south making a move. 5 bombards as well. They are looking to make a fast run. Sacred Site's being capped a little bit too late. Isn't really going to make a difference here. Pushing continues. Choke points kind of now working against the HRE. When red has numbers like this, you want to be able to flesh them out, but unable to do so. That's going to allow more ground to be gained by orange. Orange now being reacted to as the second wave comes in on the south side. Siege a little bit exposed. Good pull back just in time. Streltsy may have to form a front line here. The important detail is the siege must not die. If the siege goes down, there is no way of preventing a replacement of lost units. Replacement that seems infinitesimal because of this farm network on the backside. So many people working on food. It's really all he's got to work with is the passive gold and the food together that's keeping him alive right now. Red may have actually just fine-tuned this perfectly. As long as the farms don't get revealed. It's got to be said, Green isn't looking towards the farms. Green is looking to the south side, looking to actually connect with the other players here. It seems they finally synced up. As they've started to shorten the base, they've shrunk it a little. All of a sudden, they're able to synchronize their attacks a bit easier. Blue in with another wave. It is civil war in the monkey zoo exhibit. Oh, it truly is as well. He's turning on him. Blue, what's going on? Oh, the acorn! So Orange couldn't help him. Blue just lost the cavalry battalion because of that. Okay, that's going to cost them dearly. That is actually going to cost them dearly. Blue's going to be reset again. Military infrastructure on the front line has started to appear, but there's still a lot of troops running across the battlefield to get here. And he just prevented the player with the premium units to wipe out an army of helping him and now gave access to Red. Push out will come in. Siege once again gets overwhelmed. Orange has been fully pushed back. And Red now within 5 minutes of victory. Green trying to make a deep push here though. We'll look to bring down the pass of Swabia. Deletes one of the keeps. Those keeps, remember, if they go down, you now got a relic on the ground, so less gold coming his way, but Knights are on the march out here. Siege about to be exposed. This time he's overextended. The cavalry could beeline for the bombards and slow this down entirely. Red is doing it. And I don't see anyone stopping this right now. Blue has another wave. The riders of Rohan ready to ride once again, but they may be riding into a line of pikes and spears that will wipe them out, just like the bombards just got wiped out. I think we're done here, folks. I don't see a way. 4 minutes remaining, and I haven't seen anything to suggest they're going to get in anymore. They have one final push. But if they make a mistake, like they did last time, the time before, if it's a mistiming between their assaults, or one player steps on the other's toes, it will be GG. I don't think they even know where the Archon is. They can't even go for a landmark victory, right? They can't go for the Wonder easily. Oh, this is tough. This is so tough. I wonder if they're even communicating how many landmarks are left. I highly doubt it. This army is so damn large as well. It's full military. Red has gone all in. Everything has been sacrificed for this. 3 minutes remaining. But if this army goes down, there will be no second. Notice Red is skirting on the east side, giving over the west for free. He realizes that with this walling, he's going to be safe on the Wonder. The risk is the landmark, which is why they are guarding north here, waiting for Green to just feed away whatever small army they've rebuilt. Half the wave's going to go in. Red making a move towards the Magadai. Magadai that are getting massacred by the static point defenses. Not looking as effective when they have to dive this many keeps, this many towers. Green gets the info, snitches on it. They know where the Archon is, but how the hell do you reach it now? They're going to have to rush through. They have to beeline it. Blue making a move. Magadai trying to give the info, and they get the bad news. It's a wall off. They need siege, and they need it now. Orange, even if they breach from the west side, there's a second wall behind this. Blue is just going to surge in. Red being targeted down, but not killed off. They've still got PopCap, 200 units, fighting up against 5 other players and holding their own. Because it's not just 200 units. It's essentially 250, it feels like, with the outposts and keeps. I think they've lost all their gusto, all their steam. Because I do not see a real dent in that PopCap, but I do see a lack of forces to push. Siege reduced down to about 3 trebuchets. Game looking all but one. And with the wraparound, with the abandoned siege on the south side, you can guarantee that's going to be the case. Nobody else has brought siege to the front line. In fact, it's crazy because the purple player went full Magadai. He's not contributing any siege whatsoever. In fact, the worst thing about doing Magadai, and this is the thing you need to be dangerously careful of, when you are trying to sync up with other players in a free-for-all to kill someone, and you bring Magadai, they attack on the move. Look at what he's doing. It's literally griefing at this point. And remember, they've been coming through similar choke points, so he's probably been doing this to Knights from the Delhi, Knights from the French. As a result, it's going to be good night for all of these players. Less than a minute to go, and I just don't see a way anymore. This is what I'm talking. This is what. Look, you shop the Magadai, you feel good, but the moment you connect with another player, you're killing them as well. It's all too late anyway. With just, what, 30 seconds left to go. The final wall layer not even being breached. Not a chance in hell. What a play coming out from Red Baboon. What a way to manipulate the map, to take advantage of that space, to essentially divvy up your resources and play Benny Hills to keep everyone at bay. Because, folks, this was quite the feat. 5 versus 1. And the 1 has done exactly that. They've won the game. Baboon, Purple Baboon will try to build a 1 to be part at the moment, but too little too late. Only 1 Baboon will win here today. It's going to be the 1 on the red.